Hi, Tim and Steve, and I got another story. And I'm trying to think back. I don't think I've heard anything. It's maybe something somewhere a long, long, long time ago. But let me tell you what it's about. It's about women, and it's about their biological clock. And there's a twist to the story, everybody. So let me continue. We have talked about previous videos about angels coming into your life one way or whether it's through an NDE experience in your everyday life. They give you a message sometimes. We talked about one. There was somebody was driving, they couldn't turn the steering wheel, so on and so forth. A lot of things go on, and this is one such story about that. But it's a woman who is about to have a baby. A little before, she wasn't going into labor, so we were talking about some stuff, and she was telling me, what prompted her to have a child. And you have to understand, her background is she's really much into her career. Anytime that she thought about having a child, wasn't in the cards. This was not going to be in the cards whatsoever. So she went through this debate for some time, just inside, and something occurred. I think she said, obviously 9 months, so it was sometime about a year ago. She started hearing a voice to her left and sometimes to her right, very clear. I want to have a baby. She's just thinking to herself, where is this coming from? What is doing, who's telling me this? And so she goes through this, and that happened the first time. A couple days later, I want to have a baby. She's thinking, what is going on here? What is the story about this? She's hearing this voice either right to her left, and sometimes behind her. She's hearing something, and it's a woman's voice, obviously. I want to have a baby. And so what the whole thing is, to kind of tell you, is that, we talk about angels. And that, sometimes during people's lives, they hear their angelic voice. The question that has to be asked, in this particular case, was it her biological clock telling her, wanting to have a child? Letting her know, time is running out. Let's have a child here. And you have to understand, like before I was telling you, her life was certainly based on a career. And it never crossed her mind having a child. It was always something that she just, very persistent not to have a child. But she kept hearing this voice. This voice went on for some period of time. I want to have a baby. So she's, thinking back, and she talks to her husband about it, and the husband's kind of, I don't know what to tell you. How sometimes men are, women go through stuff, and that's your stuff, and so on and so forth. But it got his interest too, and she couldn't really explain why she kept hearing this voice, I want to have a baby. And so, and then, as she described it, is that something occurred in her body. Something occurred in her frame of mind. That she was starting to have, the clock was ticking, and she started to have this emotion about having a child. The voice still continued. I want to have a baby. And so, as I said, the question has to be asked, does your biological tell you sometimes, it's your time, I want to have a baby? So it really is, it's a very interesting story, and she was telling me about the story, and I said before, there was no way she was going to have a child, and here she is having a child. She had to tell me the story because, I said many times in the last video, this universe is huge. There's more going on than we realize, and in this particular case, was it her biological? Was it a part of her that was telling her that was her time? Was it, and how can it be an outside voice? From the back, rear, to the right or left? It sounded like a voice. You could actually hear it, and you could hear it. And so here she is. She's about to go into labor. She hasn't dilated yet, but she's getting close to it. And and she's going to have a child. She knows it's going to be a boy. Or this went on a little, so this already had happened, everybody. So this was a little past, but I thought it was a very interesting story. And the question that has to be raised again is, when you hear these voices, most of the time it's angelic. Sometimes it could be spiritual in form, but this time it may be biological, the human mind. Or was it really something out? It was an external force going on. It's hard to know. But I thought it was very interesting. And the voice kept saying, I want to have a baby. And you know what? She had a baby. And it was a boy. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of tell you a story. I thought this was really unique, and I was trying to think back if I heard anything like it. Something back, way back, I heard something about it. Something similar to this. But very rare. And so, as I said, I just wanted to share this with you guys. And another story. Another story that exemplifies that, as I said before many times, this universe is very big. Things go on. Right? And it is just stunning what goes on in this universe. And just our lives and stuff. I'm going to tell you one other short story. One more thing that guy had he was in surgery, he had an NDE experience. And we talked about this before. But during his NDE experience, he was on his way out. And what happened is the voice that he saw some angels in there, and what they were saying to him, from what I remember, is that you've been through this 100 times already. You've been through this 100 times already. So we talked about previous lives. How many lives have we had? Once you're put in existence, it's for eternity. And the question is, how many lives have we actually had? So 2 stories. One, I think, I Want to Have a Baby was a very interesting story, and this one is just a kind of reminder. We may have had, many, many lifetimes before. I mean, hundreds. And I have said this before. I can't remember a thing, anything before this. And sometimes I try to, and I think some of you might be out there, every once in a while, kind of, trying to think of, about previous lives. A lot of cases, though. I don't want to get too much on a tangent here, but a lot of cases where people, have regressed in some, and they were able to verify that person really existed. It could be back in the 1200s, 1400s, all kinds of records are, available. You can get on the computer. There's all kinds of stuff you can find out. So anyway, just a lot goes on, and I just had to want to relate the 2 stories to you, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off here, but I hope your day is going, as always ask, I hope your day is going well. And again, I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching this video. Thanks again.